MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hey, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Raman Anamaraju. No, I'm not Albert Einstein, but there are several Albert Einsteins, much smarter than me up here. We're going to talk about them at least. So, actually, today's topic is I want to do something a little bit deviation from science, pure science. It's actually science. If it is not, if somebody says it's not science, it's a part of science now. It became a part of science. So, what is the consciousness? Let us talk about the consciousness now. I have a master's in physics, and we talked about physics consciousness in a certain aspect. It pops up certain areas in certain times. I'm going to show you which area it pops up. This consciousness, idea of consciousness. The hardcore of consciousness, that's called a hard problem of consciousness. That's a bigger problem. That is actually why we feel that, why we have that impression, why we like somebody, why I like red color, why I like green, why. That is a concept. You cannot ignore it, is because it's not a science. It is a science. So what mechanism is there to explain the consciousness? That is a tough one, because that is where physics is struggling still. It comes with a measurement problem. I'm going to show you a small video, and then we're going to talk with my good friend, and she's a doctorate in consciousness. She's a Ursula Lentine. She's a pranic healer. She does a lot of internal family counseling. She would be a great, excellent coach for this burnout problem for healthcare professionals. We are at the peak in the world, the burnout among the healthcare professionals. So very minimum. So there are not too many solutions. She could give us some kind of insights into it. So what is this is I am a little bit, this is okay, I hope I didn't, oh my God. I didn't do. Hello, are you there? Oh God. Yeah, I'm still there. This technology. It drives me crazy.
This technology is also another pressure. Healthcare professionals are burn technology. I'm in the middle of Silicon Valley, and then I am quite comfortable with this technology. Still, it frustrates me. So they don't care. The technology people don't even care about how frustrated you are. Just dump some more. We need to address that. We need to raise the concerns, the medical community, and the life coaches and the conscious community. All of them have to raise their voices against this dumping of technology without any understanding, without anything that what we go through is what the mental price we pay. So this is an important one. But anyway, I'm going to show you very important a the what is the physics says about the consciousness in physics. Is the one problem is 150 years old problem. It's called almost 125 50 years old problem. It's called a double slit experiment. What is double slit experiment is you it is a photon, a particle. It acts like a both wave and particle. Once it if you don't look at it, it acts like a wave, and then if you look at it, it becomes particle. I mean, I don't want to go into the too much detail of physics part of it, just giving you some idea about that. uh, so while you are looking at it, while your knowledge, if the cat looking at, does it become a wave, becomes a particle? Or if you record it, definitely it becomes a particle. So when it becomes a particle, actually, what is the time difference between looking at it and then it becomes a particle? That is all is a big problem in physics. It's called measurement problem. They call it physics the measurement problem. So I'm going to show you a quick video on this measurement problem. So bear with me, and just to get an idea about this experimental problem in physics. The first one. The second was the after that I'm going to bring a Ursula. We talk about a little bit about consciousness and everything. Then I'm going to show you what the neuroscience says, what the medicine says, and then we talk a little bit more about with Ursula about that. Let me let me introduce you this concept of physics, what it says about the consciousness.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So this is a bigger problem, observer and observed problem. So that's, let us talk about it a little bit. It's actually Albert Einstein said that if I don't look at moon, it doesn't exist. He asked that. He was asking the question. But in quantum physics says yes. It's contrary to, that's the only time Albert Einstein was a little puzzled in that sense. So Ursula Lentine is a friend of mine for a long time. She is a PhD in consciousness studies, and she's a minister. And then she is also internal family structures that does, and she is an excellent coach for this burnout problem. Is eating up the healthcare professionals. So actually, Ursula, let me bring Ursula Lentine to the main stage. Ursula, welcome to the Big Webcast.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite videos. And even the clip with that lady putting her glasses on comes from a phenomenal movie that I want everybody to watch called What the Bleep.
That is from that movie, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell something background of yours, if you can give me a little bit of your background, and then I can ask you a couple of questions after that.
Well, when I was a child, I had a higher awareness than most people, and I thought everybody felt that way and saw life the way I saw it. And my father was a lawyer, very practical, and we would have discussions, and he said, "You're not making any sense. Don't talk like that. People can't understand you. They'll think you're crazy." And I said, "I'm making perfect sense to me. You just don't understand me." And that's how I started realizing that I'm different than other people, that they don't think and see the world the way I do. And it took many, many years of cultivating my understanding into what is spirituality, what is quantum physics, and what seeing the world from an energetic point of view, understanding it from the base instead of the manifestation.
So, I let me ask you a question. What do you the right now we are all after the we came back after the COVID, everybody is going through humongous mental stress or going through in the war. Mental health problem is a catastrophe is in making. What there's so much violence is a manifest into violence, racial violence, and this violence, that violence, domestic violence, and all these things are manifesting into this problem. How do we solve these mental health issues as a consciousness coach or a minister? What do you think? What are the solutions for this kind of a mental health problem?
Good, excellent question. So to fix a problem is to understand a problem. We don't understand why we're all falling apart right now. I do. I lived in isolation. I was living on an island, a private island, off of an island in the Caribbean for 10 years. I was very isolated. So I understand isolation. I understand being alone with your mind, being alone with your emotions, and how do you navigate that. And I understand how people are losing their mind, because if you don't have a solid foundation, so with your Hindu background and understanding it, and your science background and understanding nature, we are in an evolutionary process. We are in the age of Aquarius. So people who study the astrology and all of that, they can explain more than I can. But basically, the earth and the humans on the earth are going through a cycle, right? So we go baby, middle, elders. It's a cycle. There's natural cycles, the 4 season cycle. Everything's in cycles. Everything in nature is in cycles. We are now moving from a paradigm of the masculine power over yang and the yin yang symbols into a yin place. So the age of Aquarius is the feminine, the softer, the more mothering, the more nurturing, the more connected ways. We're not in that at all. So in order for one cycle to end, just like even cities, so a city will come and it'll be fantastic, and then it'll explode and then crumble down. Look at Detroit. I'm from Detroit. So you can see Detroit went through a cycle and now it's getting grown again. So what's happening is the paradigms that were in place, the powers that were in place, power over, top down, the elite having all the power and then all the people serving them. It's a model that's not working right now. So this COVID time has been a quiet time where we've been all get sent to our room. Like, go stay in your house and be quiet. Don't talk to anybody, right? It's almost like a punishment. But there's where we reflect. What's the quality of my life? Why am I working so hard? Is this money more important than my happiness? I'm married to this person for 20 years and I can't stand them anymore. I'm a lousy parent. My level of happiness is so low that I don't even know how I could ever get happy again. This has been a time of reflection and a time of pause, because when we change from one thing to the other, there's a transitional period, and the things that are not working in our society, our education, our banking system, our healthcare systems, there's systems that are, what's not been working is being exposed now and is falling apart. And it's very hard for us to see that. It's almost like watching somebody die, because we're coming to an end, and now we're going to have to birth something new, just like the rising of the ashes, from the phoenix.
Deepak Chopra said that if we don't address this problem, humanity is walking into sleepwalking into extinction. We don't address this problem, as you said, that with this power, 8 people runs the entire universe, entire 8 billion people. 8 people have all the wealth and power to run the entire war. They are not definitely not 8 billion times smarter than all of us. This is a very strange system. We need to address this is
Yes.
problem. I don't know how we can address this. I feel that the one of the ways, at least one of the ways, you could correct me if I'm wrong, is through consciousness, first awareness.
Yes.
So what do you
Yes.
think? Yeah, yeah. So
Yes. So if you go back into the quantum, what the video was showing there, the observer effect, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
eyeball, the measurement, that's what changed it. So if you, I'm going to leap, far leap. They say when you talk to the different religions and you study them and you say, why do we exist? Like it's so hard. Like what is this whole thing? Why are we even here? Some religions in their esoteric version will say for God's entertainment. So God can experience itself by separating into two. Because when you're one, you don't really see yourself. But when you're two, oh boy, you can really see yourself. Right? So that's one philosophy of why we exist, to see ourselves. So when we observe each other and we say, oh, you're being bad and don't do that, and that's the wrong thing, then we can say, well, I don't want to participate in darkness. I don't want to participate in power over. I don't want to participate in a slavery system where someone has power and I have to work all day and night just to feed my family. No, I'm not going to participate in that. So instead of working in this 3D model of the way things have been for, I don't know, I'm not a historian, but this power over in our country has existed pretty much the entire life of the country. Now we can say, hey, I'm mature enough. And that's why you have this Me Too movement. And you have these kids saying, my parents are abusing me. And this people having boundaries and people saying, oh, that person's a narcissist. We didn't know what narcissist meant, but it means power over, controlling, manipulating. And we're at a place in our society where enough people are saying, I'm done with that. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm not going to buy into it or whatever. So people who are overwhelmed, sensitive, it's called highly sensitive people. And if you feel other people's feelings, if the news makes you cry and all of that, you may qualify as a highly sensitive person. If we start understanding ourselves and saying, I'm not going to get sucked into the news. If you watch the news, the cadence, the way they say it, the pictures they show, the timing, the force with they talk, it's very conditional, right? It's conditioning our consciousness to be in a state of fear and panic and worry. And then if you look at the commercials, that's a paid program. When I was a kid, the news used to be a public service, right? Hey, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. And there's a guy, and he would say, and that's the way it is, folks, and like figure it out for yourself. But now, if you watch one company and then another company, there's skewing. Then you watch the commercials, and you're like, oh, this is a sponsored program. The commercials are usually pharmaceuticals. The news makes you feel bad, and then the medication makes you feel better, right? So it goes hand in hand, and you say, oh, I think we're being manipulated here because I'm getting all charged up and all worried and all fearful. So now we think the sky is falling, the world's against me. What can I do? I'm powerless. Other people are more powerful than me. That's not a working model. And the people are saying, I'm done with this. I'm not going to buy into these programs. I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be forgiving. I'm going to push away the addictions. And I'm going to put priorities, spending time in nature, spending time with my family, developing meaningful relationships, working through problems, which we've done for thousands of years. And now we're the throwaway, the cancel culture, right? We can't work through problems anymore. And boy, if you want to sleepwalk, or the cow's right over the cliff, then that's where we're headed. We have to wake up and take responsibility. We've been systematically put to sleep on purpose because it's easier to control people who are not thinking for themselves.
That's we went through a long. Now the COVID is kind of on the edge, but maybe coming back. We don't know. But a lot of people are going through long COVID. One of them is a brain fog. Brain fog is just confusion. Is left and right. Is where they're at, and then awareness. Why I'm working hard, as you said. So one of the awareness is coming from this brain itself. But this awareness is the part of the brain. Is a brain generating the awareness, or the awareness itself exists on a at the different conscious level. This is a big debate in the neuroscience. We don't know that neuroscience in the what is the neuroscience is saying about the consciousness. And then I'm going to give you a small video on the neuroscience side of it, what they do, and then a little bit of physics side also. It's a validation of that process. This is a medicine, what the medicine is saying, what the neuroscience is saying, what is the physics saying, a combination video it gives you. I made put a video together, and please watch it. And then we can come back and talk about it.
Quantum Physics for Doctors, Mystery Object in Medicine by Ramana Annamaraju. Dr. Champagne is a critical care physician and faculty member at Stony Brook University School of Medicine and a member of Pulmonary Critical Care Division. Dr. Pania is the prime investigator for a large study across multiple medical centers around the world about bringing people from cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is the arrest of pumping blood due to the malfunction of electrical activity in the heart. Cardiac arrest results in death within minutes without quick resuscitation. The resuscitation is the combination of procedural techniques of bringing someone from edges of death. One of those resuscitation techniques is a cardiopulmonary resuscitation, popularly known as CPR. Any delay administering in CPR, even for minutes, results in certain death. But there are certain exceptions and anomalies that raises several questions than answers in medicine and science.
34-year-old Audrey Mash went hiking with her husband on November 3rd when things took a turn for the worse. The couple got lost and Audrey went into cardiac arrest from severe hypothermia. But 6 hours after her heart stopped beating, doctors at Barcelona's Vall d'Hebron hospital were able to resuscitate her.
Amazing. It's like a miracle.
Audrey Schumann fully recovered and went back to her life as Audrey Schumann. Listen carefully what I said. She came back to life after dead for 6 hours as Audrey Schumann, not as a Margaret Thatcher, not as an African princess. Which one or what entity told her she is still Audrey Schumann? This is not some religious or a philosophical question. This is still under purview of scientific inquiry, particularly the process of cardiac arrest. Dr. Champagne is a prime investigator for the study called AWAKE, examines the process of dying and reviving. He conducted these studies in multiple medical centers around the world with reputable physicians with more than 2,000 subjects who went through cardiac arrest and successfully revived. Dr. Champagne argues there is a presence of some entity that is external to our world, beyond our space and time, reminding Audrey Schumann her identity. That entity is called consciousness. The study is a scientific odyssey of consciousness, the journey through an unknown worlds about some kind of a subjective awareness. Dr. Champagne had faced a resistance from scientific establishment without giving a due process and trying to sweep the studies under the carpet. The detractors' claim is the so-called consciousness has no place in the field of medicine. But Pania may have support from an entirely surprising field that is not so related to medicine, that is quantum cosmology. Andrei Linde, a well-known Russian-American professor of physics at Stanford University, gives a mathematical proof for the existence of consciousness. Linde was one of the authors of the theory of inflation. Professor Linde is a member of the National Academy of Sciences. When you apply quantum laws to the entire universe, the total energy of the universe must be equal to zero. If that is the case, nothing happened, nothing should happen, and nothing will happen in the entire history of universe. If everything is a zero-sum game, the act of you watching this video never happened, but the facts dispute, you know you're watching it. That is a scientific paradox. To solve this paradox, quantum cosmologists reluctantly injected an entity called a conscious observer. Your physical body is not excluded from the universe, but your consciousness is. Your mind became an observer. Now the entire energy of the universe can be equal to zero, your consciousness being the recorder of the history of the universe. Consciousness is the only way out to satisfy the mathematical equations of the universe. British professor of cognitive and computational neuroscience at the University of Sussex, England, argues there is only one thing there is. It is consciousness, and there is no evidence for anything else. But as a physician, you are wondering what is a patient's care is anything to do with the consciousness. But physician and the brain of a patient have one common purpose: keeping patient alive. You don't have to be smart to feel pain, just you need to be alive. Inside the brain, there are no lights, no sounds, no smells, and only electrical signals. We recognize and experience these signals through interpretations as a reality. It is certainly second person's perspective, mistaken for direct experiences.
A fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Then both hands are simultaneously stroked with a paintbrush while the person stares at the fake hand. Now, for most people, after a while, this leads to the very uncanny sensation that the fake hand is in fact part of their body. And the idea is that the congruence between seeing touch and feeling touch on an object that looks like a hand and is roughly where a hand should be is enough evidence for the brain to make its best guess that the fake hand is in fact part of the body.
The famous rubber hand illusion and the extension of that one is with the magician David Blaine performing touch experiment with the actor Will Smith and his wife Jada Pinkett. In both experiments, brain is wrongly guessing someone is poking them without being touched. Brain is clearly confused what is and what is not parts of its body. But brain has a bigger responsibility, keeping you alive. Sensory signals coming from inside the body are continuously telling the brain about its state of its internal organs, how the heart is doing, what the blood pressure is like, and so on. Patient perception is not just hysteria. It is a valid signal from the brain. Brain is a resident real-time monitoring system for keeping physiological variables within the bounds for its own survival. Anil Seth and his colleagues believe consciousness acts like a software platform for the biological interactions. Patient is not only a conscious observer of his or her own body, but also a particular participant. You can witness manifestation of consciousness in the doctor's waiting room, particularly if they are Medicare patients. In 1996, a group of people between the ages of 19 and 24 and a group of older people between the ages of 60 and 80 were asked to count out 3 minutes in their heads without watching the clock. The group between the ages of 19 and 24 clocked an almost perfect 3 minutes and 3 seconds of real time, but the older group did not stop until the staggering 3 minutes and 40 seconds. In a paper published recently by Duke University professor Adrian Bejan presents an argument based on the physics of a neural signal processing. He hypothesizes as we grow older, brain processing power is inversely proportional to the time in their mind. So older patients feel time is moving faster than real clock because their time scale is different in their conscious mind. As a physician, if you think there is only objective-based medicine, that's all there is. It is certainly a wrong conclusion. Next time, if you are walking by a patient on a life support system, show respect as they are conscious, reminding yourself Dr. Champagne's studies. Next time, before you dismiss a patient is hysterical, think of Dr. Anil Seth's studies that the patient's brain is the best patient monitoring system there is. If a Medicare patient complains he or she spends more time in waiting room than others, you realize Dr. Adrian Bejan's studies, patient's conscious time is different than clock on the wall. try to understand the conscious observer behind every patient, you see a great wonder and a mystery. You will become a perfect healer of body and mind. Computers cannot replace physician as such, because the still unknown, still mysterious entity called consciousness is not computable. Only other conscious observer like you has the power to understand. This is Ramana Annamaraju. Thank you for watching.
So, Ursula, so that is one of the pranic. That is one of the healing is the power of the physicians and doctors and nurses. But there is another area that you people like you that teach healing power that through the some of the Indian well-tested things for a long time. I was a kid. My mother used to do pranic healing on me. That is a whatever the effect is. It is a very work. It was working. My mother's power is there for me. I felt that presence every time I go through that process. I feel that my mother's presence, and healing that in that coming in the picture. Tell me about that pranic healing a little bit, and what is it all about? And then I don't know anything about. My mother was doing it, so through her own knowledge. But you can give us some scientific and a little bit of other backgrounds on it.
Yes, thank you. There's so much that I want to share about the video that you just made. That was very good work because it touched on many experiments that I'm very aware of. If we go back to the first one with the particle and the wave, and you want to understand what is consciousness, consciousness is wave. Particle is the manifestation. So when I break it down, say, oh, I'm hungry, I want a sandwich. I imagine, which sandwich shall I make? I'm going to have a turkey and tomato sandwich. I go into the kitchen, I make a turkey and tomato sandwich. There it is. And I take a bite out of it. So I had a wave of an idea. I put the wave together, and now I manifested the sandwich, right? I created the sandwich. So that was an idea moving into form. If we think of all of the things in our life that are forms, that were ideas, we can change the original idea and create a new form. When people are married and they're like, oh my God, this person. Okay, you're both fluid entities. You're both malleable. Things can change. So when they say, oh, I want a new idea of the way we're relating, I want a new idea of the way I'm experiencing my life, I want a new idea of where is my happiness. In COVID, we're like, I'm not happy anymore. How can I be happy? Don't worry, we can create a new idea in the quantum and manifest a new sandwich to eat so we can have a better life. In the medical industry, because you have a lot of doctors watching you, this is my observation, that people who want to help others go into the medical world. They just have a desire, they want to help. They want to fix problems, they want to save lives, they want to become a powerful force in the world. And then when they get into the medical field, they're not really taught the history of medical education. Like you said, your mom, before drugs, before prescription medication, we had holistic healing. We had herbs, we had sound, we had nature, we had cold plunges, we had heat, we had bloodletting, we had all kinds of things. And they said, no, that stuff's too crazy, it's unpredictable, and we can't make money off of that. So the drug company said, we're going to start the medical model. I was surprised to hear that in the medical education, they don't talk about death. They're like, okay, if you're dying, then do everything you can to their medical model. Number one rule: do no harm. Like, don't do more harm than is already there. Because when they started fooling around, they were causing more harm. Right? They were cutting open, bodies, and they were doing things, and it was messing things up. So the number one rule: do no harm. Do no harm. The second rule is keep this person alive no matter what. So there always becomes the little problem around death. They don't want people to die. They weren't trained in people to die. They're not trained properly in nutrition. Nutrition is very much a part of health. So they're in a model of sustain. If there's a disease, don't try to cure the disease, because we don't see medicine curing things. They are trying to stop the disease from getting worse. So they want to sustain the disease. We do not see doctors being trained in preventative health care. We do not see doctors being trained in menopause, something that happens to all women. They're not even trained. So we're like, wait, there's so many gaps. So what pranic healing does is goes back before pharmaceuticals and says, look, there's more things available to us for health. There's a wheel. If you think of our life as a wheel and as pie charts, physical health, mental health, relational health, social health, nutritional health, activity. So if you sit and watch TV all day, no, you're not going to have a healthy body. If you go outside and run around and get solar energy, cleaner oxygen, sunshine, vitamin D, all of that has been proven. That's our natural state. So we are coming into an unnatural state. Pranic healing sees things from an energetic state. It's a core. Pranic healing works on the wave piece of the particle wave. So
I
pranic,
love that comparison, Ursula. That's a great analogy. The idea to the manifestation of the reality is hungry idea to the sandwich idea. That you change the idea of the hungriness and or change the idea of itself. You can change. You can get the different manifestations. Beautiful analogy that is.
and thank goodness the medical world has said, okay, we admit it. Stress is the number one cause for disease. And I'm like, finally. Okay, what causes stress? Our inability to handle life's situations. It's not the life situations that causes stress. We say, oh, the money, the job, the wife, the partner, my child. Yeah, life is going to be stressful. How am I handling the stress? You cannot stop things from happening, but we can change the way we respond to health, to events. Our health is measured, again, back to measurement. They measure how healthy a person is by the way they rebound from something. So when we can have a life event happen to us and we approach it in a healthy way, in a centered way, in a raising our consciousness way, instead of fear and anxiety and the world's against me, these are all thought patterns that have been taught to us. Right. So if you're raised in a house and your mother's, always panicking and worrying and stressing out, you think, oh, okay. But then if you raise in a house and your mom's like, that's okay, everything's going to work out. We're just let's keep moving. Then you have a different attitude. So there's a wave of energy in our programming, and then our thought forms, we concretize and we say, oh, the world is against me. Oh, this life is so hard. Oh, everything's scary. Those are thought forms that have turned into particles in our brain, and then they deposit and they stress ourselves out and stress out and stress out and stress out.
I need to make a small correction there. Is a doctors? It is a physician advocacy channel. Doctors they wanted to prevent. They wanted to help patients.
They want to, but they're not trained.
No. They went to school for that. They spend a lot of time. One of the problems they have is that their hands are tied. Ask them to run faster and win the
Yes.
competition. The insurance companies and other
Yes.
the payers, they put us so many restrictions on them.
Yes.
They can't function with. And another thing is, doctors. When I came to this country, most of the doctors are independent. They're working for themselves, so they can do they have a lot of freedom. Now they see the first time doctors are experiencing what the corporations do, corporate
Yes.
wars that power the
Yes.
corporations, and
Yes.
they're feeling that stress. It is
Yes.
not a new, the other people are feeling all these years, but actually doctors are the first time feeling that pressure because they started working for corporations.
They had
So-
to, because the
so-
corporation, and this is back to pharmaceuticals, That's why I have so much
Yeah.
compassion for the doctors, because I said they go in wanting to help people and then they get trained. This is the only way we are going to allow you to help. But there are so many other modalities of healing available to them, but they're not trained and their hands are tied. I have two doctor friends who were independent, and the big companies, the big hospitals in the area were scooping up the doctors because of the insurance policies. They couldn't even keep their practices going. And now they've changed their model. They said, I can't compete with all of that. I can't live in that small place. That's not what my heart says. I'm here to help people. So they've changed their whole model. And even there's a doctor who was kicked out of the country. She went back to her own country in the Caribbean, and she went back to herbs and using food medicine and people preventative care. And I think the suicide, the depression, the stress with the doctors is there's a conflict inside because they want to help the people, but they can't. And pranic healing, lots of doctors and nurses are now turning to pranic healing to complement the Western medicine. It's not to get rid of the Western medicine. They have phenomenal things. And don't forget, intelligence, the waves of consciousness, have brought this wisdom to the people who are making the medication, right? They come up with a formula. How did they get inspired for that formula? Through the divine consciousness, right? Intelligence has a way of working through us and giving us answers. They say, oh, sleep on it. Sleep on that problem, and when you wake up, it'll be a better. Where'd that come from? Right? Something's happening inside of us that's giving us answers, that's telling us you're going to make it through. It's okay. Hang in there. That's our consciousness. That's our aliveness. So when the doctors want to help people, they will be able to find other ways to help them, bring that into their system, relieve themselves as doctors, because they hold tremendous amounts of responsibility in our culture. We expect them to come up with answers and to save our children and to, give our parents longer life. And sometimes because their hands are tied, because they don't have access to other ways of healing that we had before medication that have, by the way, worked for thousands of years.
I want to talk with you a little bit different subject. I know you for more than a long time. I know you. You know my children. So, but as I'm getting older, the aging process is a one thing I'm dealing with it. Just involved with my podcast and involved with doing work, and until the last breath of my life. So how do you? A lot of people, women, they want to look better every day, and that's a struggle they go through. How do you solve this aging problem and the phenomena of aging, and then what kind of advice you give to them as a life coach and a pranic healer?
Yes. So it's value placement. This is what we've also realized during COVID. The poor children with the cell phone. Without that thing, they don't feel like they have a value at all. The woman who is now divorced and an empty nester, her identity has been stripped away because she has been valued by her references, by her titles. The man who has been very successful, led the company,
Keep talking, okay? So just let me get you my podcast. You can keep talking. I'm listening.
Okay. So the gentleman who retires and now his value was at work, and now he's the dishwasher. So his value placement has been diminished. And during COVID, our jobs, our families have been broken. Many things have been disrupted. And we're trying to re-reference our values. I'm a valuable person, not because of what I do, not because how much money I make, but because I feel like I'm valuable. I am nobody doing nothing. If we can feel valuable being nobody doing nothing, then our ego has taken a back road, and our consciousness of being a sovereign being being a benevolent person on the planet, being a part of the collective, putting positive vibes into the world, being kind, being forgiven, keep clearing ourselves, purifying ourselves, then outside references don't give us our value. Inside references give us our value, and we can project them outward.
Excellent. So value placement is a key for the aging process. I agree with you. That is that's one thing. I could be teacher rest of my life and then enjoy it. My father was a teacher and a doctor. That's why when I talk to the doctors, one of my program's main thing is invoking their passion when they were getting into medical school. That is a curiosity and passion. That is a key. So tell me about a little bit about your background of what kind of a website you have. Well, how do you offer your pranic healing? You are
Yes.
from Atlanta, like me. We are from
Yep,
Atlanta.
that's where we met. I teach pranic healing twice a year. I practice pranic healing daily in self-care. So pranic healing is working on the wave version of the wave and particle. We are sick because of stress. We are sick because of the way we respond to life events. So when there's a sickness, listen carefully, the particle is congested. If you look at a cancer cell, it is deformed. There's a congestion, there's a corruption to the order of the cell. You look at a healthy cell, there's a certain shape, there's a vibrancy, there's a interaction with other cells and fluids coming and going. There's a healthiness compared to the corruption. Go back a little bit into the wave before that stress happened, and now you can clear out, go back into the wave and clear out the energetic version of the physical body. And then just like, when they have phantom pains, the limb is missing, but they still feel like their leg is hurting because the energetic blueprint is always there. So we work on the blueprint underneath the physical and correct that, clean that, and then it manifests as a healthier, vibrant physical expression.
I think this is a time all humans, and including the medical field, are approaching the idea of well-being in different contexts. The not only pharmaceuticals, and then you need a physical exercise and nutrition and the mind and the healing, that powers of the traditions that they gave us. All these things are very important for us to human survival and a peace of mind for all of us. And this kind of to survive our human race, we need all these tools available to us. We need to really exercise. Thank you. It is totally an honor, Ursula. You're always a friend, a long-time friend, and a fun talking with you. And I learned everything from you every time we talk together. So thank you so much. It's a fun talking. I learned quite a bit. And he gave up one of the idea that a takeaway idea that he gave me was that is excellent for a lot of people too, is that the idea itself is that you that the thought process wave potential becomes a particle, as you say. That idea itself, you change the idea itself, that wave potential, then your manifestations could be different. That's a very powerful. The pranic healing can do that. One of the tools is the pranic healing. And UrsulaLentine.com. And what is your email address, Ursula?
I keep all my social media very simple. Ursula Lentine, Facebook, LinkedIn. My email is ursulalentine@gmail. Have a beautiful. If somebody wants to start somewhere, what can I do? I have a meditation where we bless the planet with loving kindness and activate the law. In giving, so shall we receive. Right, the one golden rule: give as you want to be received. We bless the planet with loving kindness in a meditation, non-denominational, a part of the pranic healing exercises that we do every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. People can join me online. We do international. People from different states and everything get on here. And collectively, we are activating the quantum laws, the spiritual laws, and changing the vibration by serving the planet, we also get the healing because we're giving. We're trying to give. We're trying to support. We're sending waves to the particle to change the particle. And in turn, we get the benefits.
Thank you so much. It's fun talking with you. It's a virtual conference that is, you're saying at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They can join on your UrsulaLentine.com or on Facebook. You're doing a live, right? That's
Yeah.
thank you so much, Ursula. It is fun talking with you, and we'll catch up soon. And
Thank
I will
you.
see you
Thank you.
soon.
I never really get to do this deep of a conversation with normal people. So it's a lot of fun for me to bring in the different elements and speak to you because you understand what I'm saying, even though we may use different words. I love the intersection between, your education and mine and how they really complement each other. It's so much fun talking to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Sorry, one more note that I wanted to put this one here. Kathy Hart could not able to make it, and that I was supposed to do one of the programs, different program. I changed it to. Sorry, I hope she's going to join soon in the future. There she was stuck in Ireland, she said. So I hope she will come back on that. Thank you so much. All good night, and I'm going to play my usual.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.